Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. We have a lot of new members. Welcome. A lot of you have joined for different reasons, which I'm really, really excited about. I just want to talk about what's happening inside the platform so everybody knows, and we can then get started with today's topic. So what I did was I think there's three paid products inside the platform now. I dropped all of the prices to help everybody at year end so that you have the right information. I want to bring attention to one specific thing that actually is going to align with today's presentation, which is the bookkeeping training. What I noticed was last year we had an overwhelmingly amount of clients who came on for the tax returns but didn't have numbers. And what ended up happening with that was that they were struggling to get their numbers. And even with doing it onto Excel, there was so many problems. So what I did was there's a comprehensive video training inside the platform. And basically, the Excel sheet is working with the parameters of around your numbers. So let's say you're one of those who are still mixing business and personal, or even if you're in the business account and maybe you don't know yet the proper process, you're not in line yet, or the business didn't evolve. There's so many reasons why not yet, and they're all perfect. That video training you can replay, pause. It's a very comprehensive training. I think it's like 8 or 9 minutes. And it keeps you into the boundaries of what's going to be expected for you for the tax return and what's expected for you to actually keep up. Now, sometimes a lot of common questions that was happening with that spreadsheet is like, hey, Margo, should I, dive in more into income? Should I dive in more to like my subscriptions and these types of things? What I would do is keep the training and the spreadsheet as is, and then just make another copy for yourself if there's a deeper dive that is worth it for you. So one of our clients was doing it and she wanted a deeper dive on the subscriptions. So what I told her was just make a copy and then she just updated the spreadsheet on her end, and it just helped her track things because she's not in the program yet. This is not a replacement for a training, meaning for a program of being like in an outsourced solution. It's just a way to do it that is managed from a compliance standpoint, that you're going to have access to your numbers all year long, along with the tax return. Here we are ready for 2025. I know internally we're talking about the process of how to make it better. You know what we saw, and the biggest thing we saw last year was clients who did not have their numbers. So the other ones, there was a workshop that I did with Nancy from Fear to Freedom. A lot of people started to get that once I lowered the price, which I was really, really excited about. And then there's Master Your Finances and Business. I saw a few people actually jumped into that as well. Mastering your business and finance is where I put together a comprehensive standpoint of entrepreneurship. I also dropped the price down there a lot so that everybody has access to the right information and you're going to see everything together. And the important part is that what did we take from last year? What could we bring to next year and what we want to leave behind? So let's get started, because on that note, this all comes into understanding your numbers without the overwhelm. So hold on, of course. Okay. So why are we here? What we're seeing is that a lot of therapists are avoiding their numbers because they feel confused, stressed, and intimidated. Ever feel like that? This workshop makes numbers simple, neutral, and doable. So what are we going to learn today? What numbers actually matter, how to read your profit and loss statement, the 3 data points from financial confidence, examples from real practices, and how to stop avoiding your numbers. And something like walking away with clarity, confidence, and calm decision making. So even if you just took today just one action to start forward and you started to put that onto your calendars, you're already ahead. So what's the truth? Understanding your numbers is not about loving math, becoming an accountant, or becoming a perfectionist. It's about knowing what's happening in your business, and that's really it. When I started this business, and even for myself, when I was knowing the numbers, I had such a perfectionist attitude around it. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes the numbers actually they bother me, but at the same time, it also guides me for my keys and my clues to the next steps. You'll hear me saying that a lot because people really think that it's income that drives the next decision. But what it is, it's your patterns around money and your numbers that really drive the information. So, what's an example? Let's say it is your hot topic, your hot ideal client. That's where the most money comes from. And whatever you're doing for that is what you're going to want to do more. If you see a certain client that you're serving but it's taking a lot of extra time, that's something that we want to think about that we want to stop doing, or we start to talk to them about a process that's going to tighten up the belt. You see, making more money is not necessarily just bringing in more income, it's our behavior and actions and intentions around that. So the only numbers that really matter is to track is income, expenses, and net income. So let's talk about that. Everything else is optional, but it's also until you're ready to scale. So what is income? Income is basically your top line number that is before expenses. So it is in your business bank account. Let's be technical. It's all of the deposits. It doesn't matter how it came in. What matters is knowing how much you make. And I'll be honest with you, most of my calls, clients don't know when they come in, they don't know how much they're making. They get very frazzled on the number, and the common answer is, I should have been prepared. Yes, you should have been prepared, but you should have been prepared when you started the business. And what it is to meet yourself where you're at, and that even logging into your bank account and knowing your total deposits is your income. That could be a shortcut too. Expenses. What are you spending? It's not a matter of you're spending a lot or you're spending a little, you're spending on the right thing. It's just knowing what your expenses are, whether they're good or bad. You want to notice your behavior around that. I'll tell you a story. So this morning I went somewhere and I was really set up to do something a lot smaller than what I ended up doing. So when I went to the register to pay, obviously the total was more. And I found myself getting like a little frazzled. I was like, whoa, like how to get to that. And then when she explained that to me, I was like, oh yeah, totally fine. We have to just understand that sometimes our body is also just going to react around expenses, around income, because it could just be that we're doing something new or we haven't really paid attention to that. Why does this matter? Because you made the choice to spend the money. The money didn't get spent on any other way besides you spending it. Net income. So net income is what you make after, right? So we made $100, we spend $20, our net income is 80. Taxes is a whole separate thing of that. For the sake of this, it's just knowing what numbers actually matter. It's really a common question is, Margo, what numbers should I know? You should know what you're spending and you should know how much you're making. Everything else is really optional until you're really ready to scale. Let's meet the P&L, the profit and loss statement. It's simply what you earned, what you spent, and what's left. So it's really simple. It's really similar to what we talked about the numbers, where it travels through and it moves through to our profit and loss. And what you earned, again, is just a result of the deposits. I have one client, we were going through it, and she was very busy telling me, like, this came from PayPal, this came from Venmo, like all of these different avenues. But it was also keeping her very busy on the how of all of these different places because this client wants this person wants this is easier for this. But you're the professional. So you want to tell people on what's easier for you and really just do that. We have this client, we were looking through the insurance, and it was actually really fun. We're working on dashboards. And what we noticed was with the income is that uh, he had, I don't know, maybe like a dozen types of insurances that maybe it was like two for the year. I don't, something of that nature. It was very light. And I said to him, doctor, like, is it really worth it, the hassle for all of that? And he's like, you know what? I never thought of it. He just thought of it as like, you know, because he was getting money, that that's the way he should have it. So the how does matter because there's an administration behind it. So the profit and loss, like we said, it's what you earned, what you spent, and what's left. So that's the net income. Like you see, it's income, expenses, These are the numbers that matter. And the common financial statement that goes with that is your profit and loss. It's not a test, it's just your business's story. Your business's numbers meet you where you're at and it tells you what's going on. It's not a reflection of who you are. It doesn't define you. What it does define is where your business is at and what story you are on so that we can move to the next steps. How therapists need to read the P&L. Let's look at these top things. When you look at the top line, you congratulate yourself how much you made. Stop saying that you needed to make more or you should have made more. We need to be grateful for what we made and understand what is happening and what's not happening. I do this exercise a lot with clients on when they say they should have made more than what it is. What was the gap in between of what happened, why? And that's your growth. That's your growth. So let's say you thought you should make, 50,000 for the year and your business really ended up making like 30. What do you think happened? Maybe your business should have made 300,000 and it made like 190. We have all these types of conversations. The middle section is what you spent, and the bottom line is what you truly keep, right? So when you want to understand the lingo of all of this, what did I make? It's that top number, what you spent, and what you're truly keeping at the end. And what you're truly keeping at the end is what you're going to worry about for taxes. So what do you want to ask yourself? Is my income steady or unpredictable? The most common thing is that I hear that it's unpredictable, and I hear a lot of things where it's not reliable and all of these things. If you're not having a reliable income, what really means is that we don't have a steady relationship with our clients that are coming in. Because if your clients that are signing up for one-on-one services are coming weekly, your income is going to be weekly. So, or bi-weekly or whatever it is. So chances are we need to just work to figure out why the clients are not coming in, why aren't they coming back? And that alone, increasing those relationships, little check-ins, maybe like a 5 minute, check-in phone call or like an email of something to follow up with them. Are there expenses that I don't recognize? Totally possible. I happened to log into my personal Amex, I think it was like last week, and I saw this like random line. And then I went online and I was like, totally not something I would have spent on. And I don't know, maybe it was like 45 bucks. I was like, okay, cool. Another thing you want to look at is my net income aligned with the hours I work? Whew, this is a big one. This is a big one. I see this a lot because people's processes for the clients are very inundating and not taking the time to actually streamline it and bring it down. And when we do that, what happens is that it just takes us in a different way. Okay. Actually, hold on. I just did something. Sorry about that, Abigail. Hey, Abigail. Hi, Abigail.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Guys, I just messed up my slides, so I am trying to figure out how to stop avoiding your numbers. Hold on. Where was I up to? 3 data points of confidence. Donna, what was it? Investment income side. Okay, here we go. Okay. Questions to ask on the P&L. Is my income steady? So what we were talking about here is that what's going to make your income steady is chances are that we know that the clients that are coming in are steady and that they're on somewhat of a schedule. It could be some of the clients are not, given the field that it is in. However, what's going to make it consistent and reliable is having clients that come on a regular basis. Are there expenses I don't recognize? So what I was talking about before I messed up my slides was that, last week I randomly went into my personal Amex, and I don't really charge on credit cards a lot. I pay for things only on cash flow, and I just had to do something on an American Express. And I noticed some random expense, it was like 45 bucks. And then I looked it up and I was like, no, 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 that's not something that I do. So it was really cool to have that little bit back. Is my net income aligned with the hours? So this is actually what we were up to. Okay. So what we want to do is see what we're actually putting in versus getting out. And something simple like this is really taking an audit of your day with what you're making. Now, I have some clients who make money every day. I have some clients who make it per week, and they just really make it work for them. So you can do this in all different ways. So whatever your total deposits is for the month, what you can do is really see per day of how many hours you actually work, and that's going to be your average rate. You'll probably know your average rate based on what clients are paying you from the insurance, but you could do this in a more average way of what's actually coming in because it's just a different way of doing the math. And what you can do is then be like, okay, I like that rate, I don't like that rate. Maybe you like less of it or more of it, or it's a little bit above, and it's really going to align you to the next steps. What changed from last month? Now, a lot of people don't sit and do this, but it's a really, really helpful practice and tool to look at what shifted from last month to this month. I know this month in December, what people are talking about is very different than in the November. All of a sudden, the deep dive into tax returns comes in into December, even though people should, have a streamlined way of worrying about it, but everybody is different, right? So based on different things of where people are. So let's say, for instance, if you're dealing with people with kids with school or parents who are going through their change journey after divorce, there's so many different things. But in terms of the numbers, what made it higher? Maybe it made the same, maybe it's making consistent or whatever it is, and those turning factors. So these questions create clarity, and lots of times what happens is they're spin-off from one question to the other of what's really happening. So monthly income flow, knowing what's coming in, we're not going to guess. Knowing what's going out, we're going to stop the money leaks, or we're just going to be okay with it, and knowing what's left. So we have real decisions. So these are the data points from confidence that we start to look to our business from a growth, from confidence, from strength, and not from I don't know. Let's look at this example. A solo owner making 8,000 a month, too many subscriptions. Cut 3 unnecessary tools, and the outcome was $450 back into their pocket. It was a huge relief. Sometimes the 450 is somebody's car payment. I'll be honest with you. This morning I went for a walk and I checked my mail. And for the most part, I do a lot of things on paperless and auto pay to make things easier. So every so often I go to the mailbox. I get the daily, mail. And I got like 2 random checks. So it was really cool to get that money, which is a little bit different, but it was almost like my little bonus. But when you do these things that are unnecessary, but I also just want to say this is around expenses. Don't cut just to cut because you're worried about money. Make decisions from a grounded place and not from a fear base because you're worried about paying your bills. If you're always worried, it's not the time to do this. If you have times where it shifts and changes because that's business, then that's not a good time too. You want to have it where you're at a grounded state to make decisions because if your business needs the app, let's keep the app. Now another practice, 4,000 a month, but they're mixing business and personal. The fix is really just to categorize the expenses, is really to categorize everything. And outcome, you can finally pay yourself because now you're actually categorizing the money properly and you're knowing which pocket it's coming from. So not only do you get the clarity, you're also knowing what's happening in your life. It's 2 separate things. Because you're not knowing doesn't give us the permission to do something wrong or not do it at all. What we want to do is get to the point of the clarity and get the systems. Now, understanding how much to pay yourself here once it's personal. Another thing, which is a big thing here, is just simply put the personal in the personal account, the business into the business account. So we have this client, and when she came on board, she chose her office because it was near Bloomingdale's. And it was interesting when I met her. Her husband hired me. And when the husband hires me, a little different. It happened to me a few times, which I thought was interesting. And he said, I really need you to help my wife. And I was like, You're so sweet. And this client aligned to me at first because I chose my first job because it was near Bloomingdale's, the accounting firm that really started my career. And I told her that she thought it was cute. Anyways, so when she needed to relieve stress, she went to Bloomingdale's. And but it also bothered her that her husband always knew because she was like, I'm the moneymaker. Why the heck, how the heck does he know and why does he care? The bills are paid at the end of the month. So what we simply did was I said to her, just use your personal credit card instead of the business. And she was like, is it that big of a difference? So once she started to do it, she realized the shift. Now this practice is a lot larger than what I'm coming here, but what ended up happening was is like that simple shift. It gave her the privacy in her business too. So it was really cool to watch. Here's another one: a growing practice at 12,000 a month. High income, lower savings. The fix was the cash flow buckets and the consistent review. And the outcome, it was the set tax savings and predictable money flow. Numbers gave them control because numbers give you the clues. Clues are your keys and your actions to your next steps. So, how to stop avoiding your numbers? Take 15 minutes a week, could be 15 minutes a day. I have one client who came in here and I told her she had to do it every day. I thought she was going to jump through the screen and like yell at me or something. And then she was like, how am I going to do this every day? And I said to her, you were almost I think it was 3 years behind. I said, if not somebody else is going to do it and you're going to do it, you need to do that bookkeeping training every day because how else is it going to get done? And then she messaged me after and she was like, you know what, you're right. Until we strengthen these muscles, does it get better? Let's look at income, let's look at expenses, and notice the patterns. And what is it telling me? Awareness equals avoidance. We want to take away the avoidance and actually make the, I actually said that wrong. So numbers are not judgment, numbers are not shame, numbers are not numbers are not proof of success or failure. It's information. Information gives you power, and the shift changes everything. Clarity is available and confidence is learnable. And let's build that together. And I just want to close this with a little bit of an example. So I actually tell people when they're learning their numbers, what you need to do is get intimate with it, like as if it's sitting next to you and like laying down in the bed next to you. And it's like your best friend. Okay, so this is going to cost, I don't know, $2,500. Whew, that feels like a lot of money. When we start to make decisions from the outcome that we're looking for and from the place where we want to go, we're going to look at spending money and the outcome and the numbers from a whole different perspective because that's going to start to create your assets. That's going to start to create different things for you that you wanted possible. And you're going to have to make investments. So, really starting to do this and being comfortable with that, eventually it just gets easier. You're kind of like, of course, I want to invest in myself. Of course, I want to invest into the business. Over time, it becomes like it could be considered an addiction, but obviously, we do that in a managed state. So, I hope you enjoyed today's presentation around the numbers. This common question around getting comfortable with the numbers, it's been I think I call every question. Shauna, my assistant, is here. Like I think I call every question the number one question. But getting comfortable with your numbers is something that you just can't afford. So, how you guys doing? You guys enjoyed today?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is stuff I kind of knew already, but I think what I would add to it is knowing what to do when, so that when you're managing your income, you're knowing whether you're hitting your targets to make those bills that are coming due. And if I know what number is going to be due at the end of this billing period, then I know what I need to bring in. I know whether to be nervous, whether I need or be concerned, or whether I'm comfortable. And then I might be make other decisions if I am comfortable because I can bring on someone at a lower fee, for example, that can't afford me. So I'll break that rule and bring that person in. Um, so I have broken my practice into two billing periods. And so it's twice a month that I have hits that I need to make, targets that I need to make. So it makes it a little easier and it gives me a lot of wiggle room, being that I have a 2 week window to balance income. So it makes it an easier way to kind of just relax into a flow.
What do you think, Abigail?
Oh, that's interesting to hear. Actually, that's really helpful to know, to think about structuring it that way and thinking about like those sorts of targets. Um,
I even moved expenses around so that they would separate and not have everything due at once, so that I could then have the chance to make the income to make those targets.
yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. It's a all of this is a very good reminder. It's just a really good reminder that like knowing is better than not knowing. Yeah, I'm sorry I was late. Yeah.
No problem. No problem. It happens all the time. That's what the recording is for. And it's really these discussions here is meant for like open discussions and just building the awareness. So it's kind of like if you have a free 15 minutes, eventually it does get easier. Then this doesn't become the villain, the not like again, I'm going to say the number one thing. So instead, I'm going to say common is to think it's the tax man and not enough money, but it's usually not. It's just from the knowing, like here, Herb aligned his steps, and chances are next week or the next one, you're going to say, you know what? Now I realize I can do this, I can do this, and this is so much easier than really, what's it called, making it all at once. I also actually do similar to what Herb does because it gives me room. I also don't like when things take a long time, and it balances things throughout the month than just getting it all done. So I'll tell you, it used to be where a lot of these things I used to do it, let's say like once a month, I want to be done. But just that constant presence in it, and sometimes like they say like the world shifts and changes, like business shifts, but your mood shifts and changes too. So it's good to see where you're at in those moods of kind of like, is it working for you or is it not? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, like I'll know I have another 10 days before I have to make payroll, so I know how much I need for payroll. So I've got my expense target in front of me. I see the bank account where it's at now. I know what I need to bring in to make that target. Am I in a comfortable margin, or would I like to be someplace else? That's the question that I'm assessing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, and this is maybe not for this forum, but in April, I'm getting bringing in Social Security. So now I have excess income coming in beyond my practice, which is not a bad problem, but I have a tax burden that I need to take care of, and this is going to affect that tax burden. And it's, it's complicated, and maybe this isn't the forum to deal with that issue. But it's a shift. And then there's the unknown. I have book income that may come in and we don't know what that is. And I have no idea. I have book expenses. I know what that is. I know how I'm spending that. But I'm also spending money on marketing to bring in that income. But eventually I'm going to have to deal with that income as a tax liability and as income.
This is actually the perfect place. Would you mind if I gave a little bit of a background more about
No,
your
whatever you want to reveal is fine with me.
okay. So he recently just launched his book, and now he's actually doing in-person launches at places that are aligning for his book. So in addition to his practice that's one-on-one, he went in. I call them the income generating activities. I talk about this in the videos and I share this all over where we do things to align with our ideal client. So what he did was he found the places of where the clients and the groups that want the type of practice that he's offering into the book. And he could have as much as I think like 40 people so far. They're paying for the book and they're getting the experience, and he's getting to have that. So from
And they're
there,
my target audience for my book is my target audience for my practice because my book is about that.
Mm.
So I'm
What is
generating
your book?
income by bringing in more clients, by finding my target audience where they are. It's like a perfect solution to not having enough clients because I can go ahead and do this income generating activity and then just wait for them to call, and they will.
Mm.
Because my I put my cards in every book.
Mm.
Herb,
And
she
they
asked
all
your
tell me
do you
right
mind?
there, I want to work with you. And because now I'm in person, I'm a great demonstrator of my own expertise in that field. So they're getting it live and they're like saying, yeah, I want to work with you.
Mm. What's
Herb, do
the
you mind
book?
putting it in the chat? Yeah, I was about to tell him. Do you mind putting it into the chat so she can see the book?
Oh, okay.
Abigail, do you mind if I talk about our text exchange a little bit, our email exchange?
No, that's okay.
Okay. So, because I'm Herb, he's one of our more seasoned clients at this point. And Herb will probably have feedback. So Abigail is still at the point of, you know, consistent income, knowing her numbers. What would you tell somebody at that point when they're first learning their numbers on, not strong in the process yet? Any tips, Herb, that you would give her at her point?
About just learning your income. Where's it
Yeah.
at? Well, I would break it into four parts, your weeks, right? And just see how your weeks flow. So you have a
Hmm.
sense of what kind of money am I making each week? Is it different? Is my calendar pretty consistent? Is it a
Hmm.
consistent flow of money? And then you're going to do the same thing with your expenses, right? And now you can do your balancing act, right? And you can
Yeah.
say, gee, if I can look at this in 2 week groups, because what happens is you have a therapy practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Private pay.
You
Yeah.
know what happens? People get sick
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they get appointments and they have conflicts. And at this time of year, they go on vacation.
Yeah.
And it's like if you have a wealthy client, they're gone for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like if I get the flu shot, I get the vaccines, whatever that comes out, I get it because I need to work. My clients have high stress, they get sick. They have
Yeah.
terrible immune systems. Well, this is a horrible problem because I'm kind of counting on them to make my income targets for my expenses, right? So I'm always looking at these 2 week chunks and saying, all right, I got a consistent 4 absences a week. So whatever my income projected income total is, I got to take 4 clients out of that because realistically, that's what I got. I got four, no matter what, I seem to have 4 cancellations a week.
Hmm.
Can I mitigate that? She's saying, maybe there's something you can do. You know what? It's who they are. This is part of my client.
Yeah.
And I have to accept that and work around it and just build my base and make my base a little bit deeper. And then it doesn't matter if they cancel. So that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of building up my base so I have a cushion. And if I drop a little bit abnormally, Thanksgiving, we lose 2 days. Christmas, New Year's is coming. We're going to lose whole days of income. You don't work, you don't make money. Well, that cushion is going to get me through the holidays without thinking I can't make payroll or I'm going to bounce checks and I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
I have control over it because I'm doing that mitigating.
Yeah.
I know what I need to do to bring more income in and I have income producing activities where I can get on the
Herb,
ball and schedule it.
but Herb, when things were getting hard, what do you think was the driver that kept you to get over to that hump of where you are now?
Okay, so I made some mistakes. I've I've I'm in this more controlled place because I've made serious mistakes financially that really put me underwater. And I've learned from that. I made I was going off and trying to make more income by investing in crypto, and I got scammed. And what a massive income mistake did I make. So I'm paying that back now. But the chaos that got corrected by two things. Number one, I needed control. So I had to create a repayment plan within a time frame that was short because I wanted to get rid of it. I wanted to get back to normal as soon as possible. I'm in that. I'm in the middle of that right now, and it's working. It's Everything is working. I can afford to do it, and I'm seeing the debts go down, and it's going to be over. Social Security is coming in to rescue me. So another year I'll be done. It won't exist anymore. But what had to get me back was getting back into believing in me, in what I do, because that's the income producer. The source of income is me having self-confidence before this person who's hopeless. I gotta be on my game. I gotta believe in me so that they'll believe in me. And the next thing you know, they're telling their buddies and referring people. And that's income producing. So
Mm.
believing in me and not being swallowed up by my mistake and saying, "Oh, you're garbage." You look at you're not having any, you're in debt now. You're in trouble now. Instead of getting down on myself, I had to surrender, accept, and then I had to say, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come out of this better than I went in. And I think that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how I need to market my book. And now I'm watching the return on that because I go and I do these events and I got people coming up to me saying, "Can I have your card?" And I go, "It's in the book." So, you know, um, they're they're truly income producing activities.
What
And
sort of events are they?
okay, so book. When I talk about my book is about changing meaning. That's what you and I do as therapists. We change people's meanings in their life, except that people don't know that. So what I do is I spell it out and I give evidence in my spiel. And I talk about an extreme version of meaning from this guy, Viktor Frankl, from the Holocaust, where
Sure.
the life and death difference was people who held meaning versus
Yeah.
people who were hopeless. The people
Yeah.
who were hopeless died in 3 or 4 days. The people who held meaning lived to be freed.
Yeah.
Okay. I cite that because that is when you strip away everything else and that's all there is. That's very powerful to understand. So I say to people, you know what? What happened to you, no matter what it is, no matter how bad it is powerful and meaningful because you're going to learn from that experience. And we're going to take what we learn and we're going to create new meaning. And I'm a living example of that now. I'm eating
Yeah.
my medicine, right? So in my spiels, I'm talking about that. But in my book, I also work with souls and I connect people to their souls and I do soul-informed therapy because I let their souls direct where we need to go. It's amazing. But what I do in these other events, these hands-on events, is I actually do, they're called Soul Connects. We get 10 people together and I connect everyone's soul. I don't do
Mm.
it. I instruct them to do it and they do it. In my book, you can do it yourself. So
Cool.
their souls come out and we have conversations with their souls. And we ask their soul an important question, which is, hey, what is the most important thing that you need to tell me? It's the first time we're connected. What do I need to know? Right? Well, usually their souls tell them that they're loved because most of these people are deficit in that area. And the other thing it tells them is that you need to heal your trauma wounds. Well, that's couldn't be scripted better for me as a trauma therapist.
Hmm. Yeah.
they're looking around, and is there a trauma therapist in the room?
Yeah.
I think what healed Herb from his money mistake last year, or money setback, I'm going to call it, is probably a better way, is the fact of him being able, where he took that 100% belief where he remembered that.
Yeah.
And not only did he own it, he's living in it like 110%. This is a little bit different than what the exchange was, but this is still meant to help you in terms of like
Mhm.
evolving. I hope you see that.
Yeah.
But him being in the room, what we really realized was that because he was going through all these things of income generating activities, and it was frustrating too. And a lot of it wasn't working for like ridiculous reasons. And one day I just said to him, I'm like, you got to just go get in the rooms. And he was said to me, he's like, I could just walk out the door and like go in to this and that. And I was like, like that's what you're going to do. So everybody has their way of growing their business. You know, people think that the most typical is another funnel or this or that, but how you align to grow the business of where your client is, like him being in the same room now, I think now we saw that the average rate for him the time is like 350 an hour, what he's up to, or maybe it was closer to 400. I don't remember the math for the amount of time and all of that. So I say this to say is that like information leaves clues, and it's taking the juice out of the lemon for the growth so that you can get to the numbers. And how he said it really
Yeah.
perfectly. It's not living in your mistakes. And it's literally, I call it the comeback rate. How can we take what we're going to call the mistakes and just turn that into like your next steps?
Can I ask a question that's
Of course.
just like as long as I've got you here? That might
Yeah.
be
That's what these are
maybe
about.
you'll think is a dumb
No,
question. Maybe you'll
nothing
think is
is
a dumb
dumb.
question.
Nothing is dumb.
Okay, so the holidays are coming up. You know, I'm a solo mom. I don't have time off. I never take time off. But for my kid only has camp, which I'm paying extra for like 2 days of each of the weeks. And I'm trying to decide, do I work those days? Like, because I could make a couple $1,000s a week if I work those days,
Mm.
you know, or I could make nothing those weeks. And I really need the time off. Like, I really need it. You know what I mean? Like, just to be able to catch up on my life, to be able to organize, to be able to, like, you know, maybe even do some reading for clients, you know what I mean? Like, catch up on billing, make sure, but,
Right.
you know,
So
clean
the
out some
answer to your
closets.
question is going to be, are your bills covered?
Yeah,
Well, if they're covered,
do
reward
it.
yourself. Take care of you.
Yeah,
Because if you take care of you, then you're going to be there for your customers when you come back, and that's income can generate. You got to
yeah,
see that as income generating because it is.
yeah,
Because you have to be in top form when you open up when someone walks in the door,
yeah,
right? You got to be there for them. That's what they're paying you for. They're paying
yeah,
you to show up 200%. That's what they want. That's what I would want.
yeah.
Could we align the schedule that you could have maybe at least one of the days?
At least one of the days. Yeah,
So we talked about a lot of different things today, you know, in terms of like he did that 2 week span. Maybe the 2 week span is too long for you. Like I know for me at a point when I was really first beginning, I used to do it every day. You know, I was taught at like certain periods or like the 15th, the 10th, you know, these types of things. In terms of like the calendar, look at the calendar and say, you know, like I have one other client when we did this, like she ended up realizing how much time she ended up putting for something. And then she realized she used the word nonsense. I don't know if it was really nonsense, but like this is the way she categorized the time. Do a day audit of how you're spending your time to see how you can shift that maybe at least one of the days that you can.
yeah. Okay. I have to go, but thank you so much, everyone. This was really helpful.
Sounds good.
And I'm going to look at the recording to see the earlier part that I missed.
Of course.
Okay. All right. Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
everybody. Have a
Okay.
great
Very good.
Friday. Great to see
Bye.
you, or and talk soon.
Bye.